The day Margaret Wyndham called the sheriff on me for illegally fishing on her lake was the day she unknowingly signed her own eviction notice from the neighborhood she thought she could rule. There I was at dawn, casting my line into the same glassy water I'd fished for 23 years, the mist rising like silent ghosts, and the only sounds being loons calling across the surface and the soft plop of my lure. Then that shrill voice sliced through the piece like nails on a chalkboard. "You're trespassing on HOA waters." I turned to see her standing on the shore in a pastel outfit that looked more suited for a garden party than a fishing hole, arms crossed, phone already in hand. She didn't wait for an explanation. Within minutes, Deputy Charlie Morrison pulled up, looking as uncomfortable as a man could be. "Sorry, Theo," he muttered, avoiding my eyes. "She filed a complaint. I have to ask you to leave." Margaret watched from her deck with that satisfied smirk. The kind people were when they think they've just won without ever understanding the game. What this newcomer never bothered to learn was that I didn't just have permission to be there. I owned every single drop of Pine Ridge Lake, every inch of the 40-acre, spring-fed basin, the lake bottom, the water rights, the fishing spots, all of it passed down through my grandfather's deed from a long-defunct mining company in the 1950s. For 6 months, she'd been illegally charging my neighbors $200 a month to access something that had never belonged to her HOA at all. My name is Theo Blackstone. I moved to this quiet corner of the world in 1999 after cancer took my wife Sarah at 48. I needed silence, somewhere to rebuild piece by piece. The 2-acre plot with its view of the water came from my grandfather's estate, raw land back then. I built the cabin myself, board by board, nail by nail, because when your hands are working, the ache in your chest dulls a little. The lake became my daily therapy. Every dawn for 23 years, I'd walk the gravel path, boots crunching, tackle box in hand, and cast into the dark water while the world was still asleep. Pine Ridge Lake had always been the kind of place where people looked out for each other. Old cabins, blue-collar retirees, veterans, teachers on modest pensions. We borrowed tools, shared catches, didn't care if your truck was more rust than paint or your lawn was a patchwork. Then the gentrification started around 2015. McMansions went up, and 6 months ago, Margaret Wyndham arrived like a storm in designer shoes. Fresh from an Atlanta divorce settlement, she bought an $800,000 lakefront place, drove a white BMW with a vanity plate, and wore helmet hair that looked like it could withstand a Category 5 wind. Former corporate compliance officer, she knew how to turn conversations into hostile takeovers. Within weeks, she called a concerned homeowners meeting, complete with PowerPoint slides full of buzzwords: optimizing community assets, managing recreational liability, protecting property values. She targeted everything that made our little place special: fishing restrictions, dock permits, landscaping rules stricter than a golf course. The real hook was her claim that the lake itself was a common area, requiring $200 monthly membership fees per household. She got 8 signatures from newcomers scared by her charts, then sent certified letters to the rest of us demanding mandatory enrollment. I called her politely. "Ma'am, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'm not interested in joining." Her reply was ice. "It's not optional, Mr. Blackstone. This affects everyone's investment." I told her I didn't have investments. I had a home. She hung up. Soon laminated signs sprouted like weeds. Private HOA property. Members only. I kept fishing anyway. This was my routine, my peace, my daily connection to Sarah's memory. But Margaret watched from her picture window with binoculars, snapping photos like I was a criminal. Then came the day she called the cops. I packed up without argument. But when my tackle box snapped shut, the sound carried across the water like a promise. Lady had picked a fight with the wrong fisherman. What followed was 6 months of escalation. She filed formal trespass complaints with photos of me illegally accessing HOA waters. She organized emergency meetings to deal with problem residents. Violation notices rained down. Betty Kowalski's garden gnomes, there since the Carter administration, were suddenly an aesthetic violation costing $50 a day. Frank Martinez's decades-old walking path got blocked by a white vinyl fence she installed at 7 a.m. one morning. Old docks predating her arrival were declared unsafe. She hired private security, a kid who quit after 3 days of watching me fish, then an attorney who sent cease and desist letters demanding administrative fees. I didn't yell or fight back in the open. I went to the county courthouse and talked to Joyce Miller, a clerk who'd been there forever. She squinted at Margaret's HOA paperwork and called it messier than a soup sandwich. Missing boundary surveys, no proper incorporation filed with the state, no legal authority. Joyce pointed me toward riparian rights, adverse possession rules, and old county surveys that showed discrepancies. Then came the real gold, a reference in my grandfather's 1958 deed to subsurface mineral rights bought from Thompson Mining Company back when they explored for copper that never panned out. Those rights included the lake bottom in perpetuity. I hired a surveyor. My lot extended farther into the water than anyone realized. A trip to the state archives confirmed it. Thompson Mining purchased comprehensive mineral and water rights in 1943. When the company folded, the rights passed cleanly through holding companies to my grandfather, then my father, then me. Modern interpretation meant fishing, boating, swimming, all related activities. I owned the lake bed from shore to shore. Margaret had been running a 6-month protection racket on my private property. She kept pushing. Noise complaints about my boat motor at dawn, health department calls about my septic clean, attempts to declare my dock unpermitted. She blocked elderly residents' doctor-ordered walks, spread rumors, hired a PI to dig into my background, found nothing but a modest, stable life. Her HOA never filed proper papers. It was legally a nothing. Allies quietly turned. Joyce helped with records. Deputy Charlie documented the harassment. Betty gathered testimonies. Dale, the HOA treasurer, started doubting. The breaking point came when she scheduled a county commissioner presentation to demand official enforcement authority over our community asset. She booked a caterer, invited the newspaper, reserved a victory party venue. I prepared in silence. Certified deeds, tax records. I'd paid lake taxes for 23 years. Survey maps, chain of title documents, a legal brief from attorney Samuel Bennett explaining everything in plain language. We planned to let her speak first. Let her publicly commit to claiming ownership before the truth dropped. The meeting night arrived. Margaret strode to the podium in her cream blazer, PowerPoint gleaming, graphs showing declining property values from unregulated access. She presented 47 signatures, mostly outsiders, photos of my tackle box labeled commercial equipment, and demanded commissioners recognize her HOA as the lake's managing body. Her supporters clapped. Then the commissioners opened the floor for responses. I walked up in my flannel and work boots, carrying one manila folder. Commissioners, I'd like to clarify property ownership. I thanked Margaret for her passion, agreed lake management mattered, then laid out the facts. I'd paid taxes on Pine Ridge Lake for 23 years. I produced the 1958 deed. My grandfather bought full mineral and water rights from Thompson Mining. Those rights included the lake bottom and perpetual surface access. Attorney Bennett confirmed the chain of title. Joyce verified my tax payments and Margaret's lack of legal standing. The tax assessor confirmed her deed stopped at the high water mark. She never owned or paid taxes on any lake portion. The room went electric. Margaret shot up, voice cracking. This is impossible. Dale resigned on the spot. Her photographer quietly packed up. Commissioners reviewed the documents during a recess, then ruled. My ownership was valid and comprehensive. Her HOA had no authority. Any structures on my property were trespassing and had to come down. The sheriff, who'd been prepped to arrest me for trespassing on my own land, just shook his head. Margaret fled the room, heels clicking in panic. No comment for the reporter chasing her. Her victory party waited empty. Within days, the fake signs vanished. The fence disappeared. Cameras were dismantled. 3 families quit her HOA. The rest stopped paying. It dissolved like mist in sunlight. Neighbors organized a workday to restore the paths and docks. Former HOA members brought tools and apologies. Barbecue smoked. Kids laughed. Margaret listed her house. It sold below market after 45 days. The new owners came for the fishing and quiet. I put up a simple wooden sign at the boat launch. Blackstone Family Lake. All welcome. Fish responsibly. No fees, no rules beyond respect, and no litter. Joyce and Bennett started property rights workshops. We launched an annual lake cleanup, a small scholarship fund in my grandfather's name, and Pine Ridge Lake Days, a summer festival of fishing contests, shared stories, and barbecue. Now my dawns are peaceful again. Mist rises, loons call, neighbors sometimes join me with coffee and quiet companionship. The stress eased, my back stopped hurting as much. Betty's gnomes are back in force, one new one holding a fishing rod in my honor. Sometimes the best justice isn't loud revenge. It's watching a bully realize, quietly, publicly, irreversibly, that they picked a fight with someone who owned the entire battlefield. And then the lake just goes back to being what it always was, a place for healing, for community, for anyone who approaches it with respect.